I'll be honest with you, I don't know what's more terrifying. A monster that hunts you in the dark, or a monster that knocks on your door wearing your brother's face. This story, titled "My Family Was Skinwalkers" from a Reddit user named Sophia, describes what happened when something started impersonating her family members one by one. It looked like them, it sounded like them, but it didn't blink right. It didn't move right, and it knew things it shouldn't have known. Sophia has made it clear she believes this was a skinwalker, but whatever it truly was, one thing is certain: it took her mother. I don't know what more to say. It's very creepy. So without further ado, give this video a like, subscribe if you're new, help me reach 100 subscribers, and yeah, thanks for stopping by. Now let's just begin. The most horrifying skinwalker encounter. My name is Sophia. I'm 26 now, but when this started, I was 23. I was working as a nurse at a regional hospital in rural Ohio. I lived alone in a small apartment about 40 minutes from my mom's house, where she still lived with my older sister Nissa and my younger brother John. That's important context. I was the one who moved away. I was the one who needed distance from the family house. I should have stayed closer. It started on a Thursday night in October. I'd just gotten home from a brutal shift, a code blue that didn't make it, a combative patient in the ER, the usual chaos. I remember kicking off my shoes and just standing in my dark kitchen for a minute, too tired to even turn on the lights. I was thinking about whether I had the energy to microwave leftover pasta when my doorbell rang. 9:47 p.m. I remember the time because I looked at the microwave clock and thought, who the hell rings a doorbell at this hour? I checked the beep hole. It was John. Now, this was weird for a couple reasons. First, John was supposed to be on a camping trip with his friends, some annual thing they did where they drove up to the Hocking Hills and spent a week hiking and getting drunk around a campfire. He'd been talking about it for weeks. Second, John never visited me unannounced. We texted, we called sometimes, but showing up at my apartment at almost 10 p.m. without warning? That wasn't him. But there he was, standing on my welcome mat, and stuffed in his jacket pockets. I opened the door. "Hey," I said, "what are you doing here? Thought you were camping." He smiled, or his face did something that was shaped like a smile. "Plans changed," he said. "Mind if I crash here tonight?" His voice was right. His face was right. He was wearing that stupid Buckeyes hoodie he always wore, the one with the coffee stain on the sleeve that he refused to wash out because he said it was character. Everything about him was correct, but something in my chest went cold. I can't explain it any other way. It was like that feeling you get when you're walking alone at night and you suddenly know someone is watching you. Except I was looking right at the source and my brain was screaming that it wasn't what it appeared to be. I blamed it on exhaustion. I was tired. I was stressed. I was probably a little dissociated from 12 hours of medical emergencies. So I stepped aside and let him in. "You want something to eat?" I asked. "I've got leftover pasta." "No thanks." He was still smiling. "Just tired. Long drive." He was looking around my apartment like he'd never seen it before, which was insane because he'd helped me move in 2 years ago. He'd sat on that exact couch and complained about my taste in furniture. But he was scanning the room the way you'd scan a new environment, cataloging exits and obstacles, and he wasn't blinking enough. I know that sounds crazy. I know it sounds like I was looking for reasons to be scared, but nurses notice things about bodies. We have to. And John's body wasn't moving right. His gestures were a half-second too slow, like there was lag between his brain and his limbs. His weight shifted wrong when he walked. He smiled with his mouth, but his eyes stayed flat. "I'll set up the spare room," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I felt. "Thanks, Soph." Nobody calls me Soph. Not John, not anyone in my family. My dad used to before he died, but he was the only one. I went to the spare room and made up the bed with shaking hands. When I came back out, John, or whatever was wearing John's face, was standing in the exact same spot I'd left him. Like he hadn't moved at all. "All set," I said. "Great." He walked past me toward the room, and as he did, I caught a smell. Something faint, something wrong, like copper and wet earth. and something else underneath. Something my brain refused to identify. "Good night," he said, and closed the door. I stood in my hallway for a long time. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself exhaustion was making me imagine things. I told myself my brother was sleeping 20 feet away, and everything was fine. I locked my bedroom door that night. I'd never done that before. When I woke up, he was gone. Not just gone erased. The spare bed was made perfectly, like no one had slept in it. There was no sign anyone had been in my apartment at all. No footprints, no hair, no trace of that copper earth smell. I checked my phone, and my heart stopped. John had posted to Instagram 2 hours ago. Him and his friends, standing on top of some ridge in Hocking Hills, the sunrise blooming orange behind them. The caption said, "Day 4, living my best life," with some hiking emojis. Day 4. He posted every day of the trip. I scrolled back. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3. He was documented in every single photo. Clearly on the trail with his friends, clearly nowhere near my apartment. I called him. My hands were shaking so bad I almost dropped the phone. "Hey Soph, what's up?" His voice was bright, a little out of breath. "Normal. Where are you?" Hiking? We're about to hit this waterfall. You weren't at my apartment last night?" Silence. Then, "What?" "No. I've been here since Monday." "Sophie, are you okay?" I hung up. I sat on my couch and stared at my phone and tried to convince myself I'd hallucinated. Stress-induced psychosis. A very vivid dream. Anything that made more sense than what I knew in my bones had actually happened. Something that looked like my brother had stood in my apartment. Something that knew his name but didn't know his habits. Something that smiled wrong and didn't blink and called me a nickname only my dead father used. I almost convinced myself I'd imagined it. Then that weekend, I went home. It was Saturday, late afternoon. I was sitting on the back porch with Nissa, drinking iced tea and watching the sun sink toward the tree line. Mom was inside making dinner. I could hear her humming through the screen door. John was supposed to get back from his camping trip that evening. He'd texted the family group chat that morning saying he'd be home around 7. It was maybe 5 o'clock when we heard his voice inside the house. "Nissa?" I froze. Nissa looked at me, confused. "He's early," she said, and started to get up. "Wait." I grabbed her arm. "Did that sound right to you?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" "Nissa." The voice came again, and every hair on my body stood up. It was John's voice, but it was wrong. Too flat, too measured. Like someone reading a script they didn't understand. "Come here." There was no warmth in it. No reason for him to be calling her inside. Mom was in the kitchen. If John had just gotten home, he'd be talking to her, not calling for Nissa from somewhere deeper in the house. "Don't go," I whispered, but Nissa pulled away from me. "You're being weird," she said, and she went inside. I sat on that porch and counted seconds. I got to 23 before I heard her scream. It wasn't a normal scream. If you've worked in a hospital long enough, you learn to differentiate screams. There's the pain scream, the frustration scream, the fear scream. What came out of my sister was something else. A primal, animal sound of absolute terror. The kind of sound you make when your brain has stopped processing language entirely. I was through the screen door before I knew I was moving. The kitchen was empty. The living room was empty. I called for Mom, but got no answer. I found out later she'd gone down to the basement to grab something from the freezer, completely oblivious to what was happening upstairs. The house felt wrong. You know how a space feels when someone's hiding in it? That charged atmosphere, that sense of watching eyes? My childhood home felt like that, except amplified. Except everywhere. The air itself seemed thicker, harder to breathe. "Nissa!" I ran down the hallway toward the bedrooms. Mom's door was closed. The bathroom was empty, and Nissa's door was wide open, yawning like a mouth. I found her collapsed on the floor of her bedroom. Not unconscious. Her eyes were open, wide and staring at the far corner of the room. Her whole body was rigid, like she was mid-seizure, but she wasn't convulsing. She was just frozen. There was nothing in the corner, just shadow. I called 911. I rode with her to the hospital. Mom followed in her car, crying and asking me what happened, and I didn't have any answers. They ran tests. They found nothing wrong with her physically. They called it a vasovagal response, triggered by acute psychological stress, and told us to follow up with her primary care doctor. Nissa didn't speak for almost 2 hours after she woke up. She just lay in that hospital bed, staring at the ceiling, her hands gripping the blankets so tight her knuckles were white. The nurses kept asking if she wanted water, if she was in pain, if she could tell them what happened. She didn't respond to any of it. Mom sat in the corner of the room, aging 10 years in front of my eyes. She kept looking at me like I had answers. I didn't. When Nissa finally did speak, she grabbed my hand so hard it left bruises. "It looked like John," she whispered. But it wasn't. I know. It was standing in the corner, just standing there. Like it was listening to something I couldn't hear. Her voice cracked. And when it turned around, its face was... Soph, it was John's face, but something was wrong with it. It was stretched, like skin pulled too tight over the wrong skull. I held her. I didn't tell her about my visitor 3 nights ago. I didn't tell her I understood exactly what she meant. I should have told her. Maybe if I had, we would have left sooner. The next few weeks were a descent into a kind of slow burn terror that I wouldn't wish on anyone. It started small. Phone calls from family that didn't make sense. Mom would call me and ask if I was coming for dinner, except I'd already told her twice that I was working late. I'd say, "Mom, we literally talked about this an hour ago," and she'd insist we hadn't spoken all day. Nissa would text me about something we'd supposedly talked about that I had no memory of. Once she mentioned a whole conversation where I'd apparently told her I was thinking about adopting a cat and asked for breed recommendations. I've never wanted a cat. I'm allergic to cats. She was annoyed that I was pretending to forget our discussion. John would reference conversations that had never happened. He'd follow up on things I'd supposedly asked him to do. Pick up groceries, check on Mom, research vacation spots. Tasks I had no memory of requesting because I'd never requested them. At first, I thought I was losing my mind. Memory gaps, dissociation, maybe some kind of breakdown from stress. I started keeping notes. Detailed notes, obsessive notes, about every single interaction. What I said to whom, what time, what we talked about, what platform we used. I checked my phone logs constantly. The patterns didn't match. There were calls that didn't appear in my history. Messages that existed on their end, but not mine. My family was having conversations with someone they thought was me, but I wasn't there. Something was talking to them, wearing my voice, learning our dynamics. Then there were the footsteps. Every night, sometime between 2 and 4 a.m., I'd hear footsteps outside my apartment door. Slow, deliberate steps, like someone pacing, not the quick footsteps of a neighbor heading to their car or coming home late. These were measured, patient, like someone was waiting for something. I'd hold my breath in bed and listen to them. Back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes they'd stop right outside my door for minutes at a time. I'd imagine whatever was out there pressing its face to the wood, listening to my heartbeat the way I was listening to its feet. I'd check the peephole. Nothing. The hallway would be empty, fluorescent light buzzing, carpet stained and normal and completely void of anything that could make those sounds. I'd check my doorbell camera. Nothing. Just footage of an empty corridor, static and still, while the footsteps continued on the other side of the door. But the footsteps would continue for hours, back and forth, until I was curled up in my bed with the lights on, a kitchen knife on my nightstand, blankets pulled up to my chin like a child afraid of monsters. Except I wasn't a child, and I was becoming increasingly certain the monster was real. I started seeing shapes at the edge of my vision, movement in mirrors that didn't match my reflection. A split-second delay, a wrong angle, a head that turned when mine stayed still, shadows in broad daylight that fell at wrong angles. I'd walk into a room and feel like someone had just left it, the air still disturbed by their passage. And that smell, copper and earth and rot, would appear randomly, filling a room for a few seconds and then vanishing. Sometimes I'd catch it in public places, the grocery store, the hospital parking lot, the gas station at 3 a.m. when I was too scared to sleep. It followed me everywhere. Something was watching me, learning me, studying my habits and my routines and my relationships. I felt like a specimen being cataloged, like prey being stalked by something that had all the time in the world. I stopped sleeping properly. I stopped eating normally. I went to work and came home and checked every lock 12 times and sat awake in the dark, waiting for something that never quite arrived. My coworkers started asking if I was okay. I told them I was fine. I wasn't fine. I was slowly coming apart. Then Mom came to visit. It was a Sunday evening, maybe 3 weeks after the incident with Nissa. Mom showed up at my apartment with a casserole dish and a concerned expression. "You look terrible, sweetheart," she said. "When's the last time you had a real meal?" I wanted to cry. I wanted to tell her everything. But she was here. She was real. She was my mother standing in my kitchen with a tuna casserole and that worried crease between her eyebrows that meant she was about to fuss over me. So I let her. We had dinner. We watched a movie. She told me stories about work. She was a receptionist at a dentist's office and complained about her coworker who microwaved fish in the break room. It was so normal, so wonderfully, blessedly normal, that I felt myself relaxing for the first time in weeks. She fell asleep on my couch around 10. I covered her with a blanket and sat in the armchair across from her, just watching her breathe. Everything was okay. I was okay. My family was okay. I must have fallen asleep too. I woke to silence and cold air. The front door was open, not wide open cracked, like someone had left in a hurry and hadn't pulled it shut all the way. The October night poured in, carrying that smell, that goddamn smell of copper and earth. Mom wasn't on the couch. I found her in the doorway between my living room and the hall. She was on her side, one hand stretched toward the door like she'd been reaching for something. Her eyes were open and glassy, and there was a look on her face I'll never forget. Not pain, not fear, but recognition. Like in her last moments, she'd seen something and understood exactly what it was. She was already cold by the time I reached her. The doctors called it a heart attack. Sudden cardiac death, they said. It happens. No warning signs, no history of heart disease, but it happens. The police found no signs of forced entry, no signs of foul play, nothing out of place except a mother dead on her daughter's floor. I didn't fight them on it. What was I supposed to say? That something pretending to be my brother had stalked my family for weeks? That I was pretty sure my mother hadn't died of natural causes, but had been killed by something I couldn't name or prove existed? So I nodded. I signed papers. I planned a funeral. And then, 3 days after her death, my neighbor Mrs. Patterson knocked on my door. She was standing there looking pale, looking like she hadn't slept, looking like someone who'd seen something they couldn't explain. "I'm sorry to bother you," she said. "I know you're grieving, but I need to tell you something about that night. The night your mother." I let her in. I made her tea with shaking hands. And then she told me what she saw. She'd gotten up around 3 a.m. to use the bathroom. Her peephole had a clear view of my door. She looked out, an old habit from decades of living alone, and she saw someone standing outside my apartment. It was a young man, she said, wearing one of those college sweatshirts. At first I thought maybe he was your boyfriend, but then I looked closer and... She stopped. Her hands were trembling around the teacup. "What did you see?" He wasn't moving right. He was just standing there, but it was like he was a puppet. Like someone was holding him up with strings I couldn't see. And his face. "What about his face?" Mrs. Patterson looked at me with eyes that had seen something that broke a piece of her. It kept shifting, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to look like. One second, it was a young man's face. The next, it was longer. Wrong. The eyes were too far apart, and the mouth was too wide, and it was smiling at your door like it knew someone was about to open it. My blood went cold. "Then your door opened," she continued. "Your mother stepped out. She looked confused at first, then scared. They talked. I couldn't hear what they said. And then what? Then he touched her. Just touched her face, gentle like, and she dropped. Just dropped like someone had cut her strings. And that thing? It turned and looked directly at my peephole, like it knew I was watching. She started crying. Its face wasn't human anymore. It was stretched and wrong, and it was still smiling. And then it walked away, but it didn't walk like a person. It moved like something pretending to remember how legs work. I sat there in silence. Everything she described matched what I'd seen. "I should have called the police," Mrs. Patterson whispered. "But I was so scared I couldn't move. I just stood there watching until it was gone." "Why are you telling me this now?" She looked at me with haunted eyes. "Because last night, I saw it again, standing outside your door, wearing your mother's face this time, and it looked at my peephole and waved. I called my brother the next morning. "We need to talk," I said, "in person. Don't come to my apartment. Meet me somewhere public." He heard something in my voice, because he didn't argue. We met at a Denny's off the interstate. Nissa came too. I told them everything. The visitor that first night, Mrs. Patterson's account, every wrong conversation, every phone call that didn't match up. I expected them to think I was crazy. Instead, Nissa started crying. "I've been seeing things," she said. "Figures at the tree line at night." I thought I was losing my mind. John's face had gone pale. "I've been getting calls from you. Except it's not you. The voice is almost right, but not quite. It keeps asking questions about Mom, about where she kept things, about her routines." We sat there for 2 hours, piecing together a picture that made my stomach turn. Something had been infiltrating our family, taking our faces, testing our voices, learning our habits. "What is it?" John asked. "What the hell is doing this?" Nissa answered slowly. "My roommate in college was Navajo. She told me about something. A kind of witch that wears other people's shapes. That mimics voices to lure people. She said they feed on families. On trust." "What was it called?" Nissa shook her head. "She wouldn't say the name," she said. "Speaking it draws their attention." She said, "Once they mark a family, they don't stop. They keep coming back, wearing the faces of people you've lost." Silence. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. "We need to leave," I finally said. "All of us, tonight." Nobody argued. We left that night. I don't mean we planned and packed. I mean we drove straight from that Denny's to the house, threw whatever we could fit into bags, and ran. We didn't say goodbye to anyone. We didn't cancel anything. We just ran. As we loaded the last bags into John's truck, I looked up at the tree line behind our mother's house. The sun was setting, and for just a moment, just a single heartbeat, I saw a figure standing at the edge of the woods. It was wearing my mother's dress, the blue one she'd worn the day she came to visit me. But the proportions were wrong. The arms were too long, and even from that distance, I could see it was smiling. I didn't tell John or Nissa. I just got in my car and drove. Nissa transferred to Virginia. John got a job in North Carolina. I found work at a hospital outside Atlanta. We settled into a small rental house together. All three of us, because none of us could stand being alone anymore. For a while, we thought it was over. It's been 3 years now. We're okay. We have our routines. Check-ins every morning and night. Code words to prove it's really us. We don't talk about what happened. We don't say its name. I thought we were safe. Then last Tuesday, I got a text from Nissa. "Hey, can you pick up milk on the way home?" Simple text. But Nissa and I have a rule. We always start with a specific word. Always. She didn't use it. I called her immediately. "Did you just text me about milk?" Long pause. Then, quiet. "No. My phone's been in my locker for 2 hours. I still have that thread. 3 messages from Nissa that Nissa never sent. It knows our numbers now. I haven't told John. I haven't told him about what happened on FaceTime last week either. We were talking, normal stuff, and for half a second his face shifted. Not like bad Wi-Fi, like his features slid wrong and then corrected. He kept talking like nothing happened. I can't stop replaying it in my head. The way his eyes flicked to something off screen right before it happened. Something I couldn't see. And when his face fixed itself, his smile was different. Just slightly. Like someone put it back wrong. I keep telling myself it was a glitch. Bad connection. Tired eyes. But I don't call him on FaceTime anymore. Last night, Nissa came home from work. Keys in the door. Bag dropping. I'm home, like always. I watched through my door crack before coming out. She walked past my room toward the kitchen. She wasn't casting a shadow. When I came out 20 minutes later, she was on the couch. Shadow and all. Completely normal. Maybe the light was weird. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe not. You know what's funny? I used to watch those Skinwalker videos on YouTube. The Reddit stories, the scary compilation stuff. I'd listen while doing dishes and think, what a load of crap. I'd roll my eyes at the comments where people swore it was real. I thought they were crazy or lying for attention. Now my mom is dead. Something wearing my brother's face killed her. And I still don't fully understand what a Skinwalker even is. I don't know the rules. I don't know why it picked us. I don't know if there's 1 or 10, or if it's even the right word for what's hunting my family. Nissa's college roommate wouldn't explain much. She just said, don't say the name, don't look for it, don't try to fight it. So what do? Google how to kill a Skinwalker and hope some Reddit thread has answers. Some nights I lie in bed and I still can't believe this is my life. 3 years later, and part of me is still waiting to wake up. Still waiting for someone to tell me mom had a heart attack and everything else was grief and stress and my brain breaking. But I saw that thing smile. I saw how it moved. I heard my dead father's voice ask me to open the door. This is real, whatever this is. And it's not done with us. I don't have answers. I just needed someone to know. And that's it. If you liked this video, hit like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what you want next. I'll see you soon. Until then, here are some more videos you might enjoy.